Hi, this is the beginning of the book When the Raven Calls, Volume 1, Mapping the Hidden Cosmology of the Eddas. Available on Amazon right now. In this video/audio, I'm gonna give a brief, simplified overview of the Norse creation story. Because most people think the Norse creation story is simple. You have a void, fire and ice, a giant appears, the gods kill him, and the world is made. That is not wrong, but it misses what is actually being shown. The old texts describe a process. I'm going to explain it a little bit more, and some parts come directly from the sources, and some are patterns that become clear when you read them carefully. So let's start with Ginnungagap. Ginnungagap is not empty, it's not nothing. It is a charged gap between two extremes. Niflheim, cold, still and heavy. Muspelheim, hot, active and unstable. Creation does not begin in either one. It begins between them from tension. That matters because it means nothing starts from nothing. Everything starts from pressure between opposites. Now, something most people skip is that in the sources it is said that from Niflheim flow rivers and they carry something called Eitr. Eitr in Old Norse is usually translated as poison. That is correct, but it is also incomplete because Eitr does not just destroy, it also creates. When forces clash, when pressure builds, when structure starts to break, something unstable appears, and that is Eitr. It is dangerous, unpredictable and unstable, but also generative, transforming and productive. So the simplest, correct way to understand Eitr is it is unstable material that appears when things break under pressure, and from it, new form can emerge. Now, there is something deeper. Eitr is not only at the beginning, it also appears at the end of the world cycle. In Voluspa, the dragon Nidhugger rises carrying the Nai in Old Norse. Nai is usually translated as the dead, but it usually means like the residue. That what is left over, that is what not used yet or whatever. That detail is important because it shows that nothing disappears completely. When a world collapses, it leaves something behind, not clean structure, not stable form, but residue. And that residue is like Eitr, it is carried forward. And later it becomes the material for something new, it gets recycled. So Eitr is both what comes out of destruction and what makes creation possible again. Now the process begins, cold meets heat, tension builds and Eitr becomes active and something appears, Ymir. Ymir is not the world, he is the first thing that holds together long enough to matter. Before him everything breaks apart, nothing lasts, but with him something continues. He is unstable, he produces more from himself, he is too much. But that is the point, he proves that reality can now hold form. We have reached the first threshold in the creation of the universe. Reality becomes pattern capable. Something can now exist, persist, and be shaped. This is what I refer to as the first Ansuz. Why Ansuz? Because that rune has several meanings, and they are actually the description of steps in a process, of which this is the first step. I just said, reality becomes pattern capable. It is not speech, it is not breath, it is structure. You can compare it with a drum. A drum is built. Before that, nothing holds tension. Now it does. The skin is stretched, but There is still no sound. Nobody is using the drum. Nobody is beating it. But sound is possible. So Ymir is not stable enough. The gods had to act. They kill him, and they use him to build the world. Flesh becomes the earth, blood becomes sea, bones become mountains, and skull becomes the sky. This is not gentle creation. This is forced order. The world is built from something that was unstable, excessive, and uncontrolled. It shows that order always comes from something that was first chaotic. That is why it's the Eitr who create the structured world, because the Eitr are the gods of structure. Now the world exists, but it is still not active in a meaningful way. It begins to move, vibrate, express. This is the second Ansuz, breath, speech, sound. The drum is now struck. Now pattern can travel. Now structure can spread, repeat, and be shared. One step remains. Structure exists. Expression exists, but no one is using it yet. Then the humans appear. They are given the three gifts of the gods: breath, mind, and life. And now the pattern moves inside a living being. This is the third Ansuz. Now the drum is played and understood. The rhythm can be repeated because we have intelligence entering the scene. The drum can be used on purpose. All of this is part of the creation myth, but we see the same pattern in humans. When a person dies, everything does not disappear. The form is gone, but the effects remain. What you did, your actions, your habits, your decisions, they stay in the system. They affect other people. They shape what happens next. Just like the dragon carries the data or the residue, your life leaves behind something that continues, not your body, not your personality as a floating thing, but at least your impact. That is what gets carried forward. So, the full pattern is tension between opposites. Eitr appears, the unstable material. Something holds, Ymir. First Ansuz brings structure, and structure can be shaped by gods. Then the second Ansuz, expression, and the third Ansuz, conscious use. This is not just about the world, like I said. This is about anything that becomes real. The step one, structure. If nothing holds, nothing works. You need discipline. You need limits. You need a clear form. Step two, expression. You must act. You must move, speak, and do something. But step three, you have to use it the right way. You have to use it with intelligence. Understanding is not enough. You must apply it under pressure and with consequences. Everything follows these patterns. First it holds, then it moves, and then it is used. Worlds, humans, and your life. If it never reaches the third step, it never becomes real. May the gods be with you.